Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora. For our 16th episode, our topic of discussion this week is how to deal with who you are as a woman in a male-dominated world. And joining me today is my dear and good friend, Jackie Glenn. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Share with us your thoughts on how to deal with who you are as a woman in a male-dominated world.
Well, Nora, I'll give your listener background. I'm a former chief diversity officer coming out of one of the largest technology company in the world. And being in technology, for those of you who know technology, it's male dominated. 70% of the workforce is men and mostly white male. And so what I always say to young women that I mentor and coach is that you have to go into wherever you're going. If it's corporate America, it's in entrepreneurship, it's in the church, anywhere you're going in, knowing who you are. And so I know a lot of your listeners are Christians, so they know the scripture that said, Jeremiah 29:11, that I know the plans and that you're above and not beneath. And so going in knowing who you are is number one. Knowing what you know, that you know it, is number two. And being confident that a lot of times some of these guys do not know as much as you do.
Wow.
So I leave that there.
Okay. And how do you become a woman of value in a male-dominated world? Again, like you made some key points about corporate America. But again, let's look at our church as believers in Christ, that most of the church is full of women, but we know that a lot of the churches are full of men. There are still congregations that believe that a woman doesn't have a place in the pulpit, that she's not been called to preach. We're still in this day in 2020, we're still dealing with that situation. So give us your feedback on that.
That just blows my mind because, I'm not quite sure who's thinking and saying those things, but, this is where sometimes I just become a little bit undone because if you look at the statistic, it shows you that some of the most educated people in the world are women. Women are graduating with advanced degree at a faster rate than men, number one. And two, they are literally heads of household. They're running a lot of things. And as I said earlier on, they are also some of the fastest growing entrepreneur, especially women of color. And so I think you have to walk in there again, knowing what you know and be very prepared. The word is prepared, Nora, because if you go in unprepared, you're going to be nervous. You're already nervous. And then if you're unprepared, their job is to shake your confidence. And so in my book, I talk about boldness, where you have to walk, not in a spirit of rudeness or with any type of air about you, but a spirit of boldness, knowing that you belong there and you have a right to be there.
Right. Absolutely. So how important is it? Let's talk to our viewers, women, of course, how important it is for them to make their voice heard. Like not in an arrogant way, but like you just expressed a little bit about being confident in who you are.
You have to make your voice heard, because there's this double-edged sword that if you sit in a meeting or you sit at a function and you're one of two or three women and nobody said anything, then they're going to think you have nothing to say. Or if you try to say something and they talk over you, if you're not strong enough to say, wait a minute, I am saying something, can I have a minute, please? Or just like, and I'm not trying to sound antagonistic, but at times you gotta, when in Rome. And so I came out of a male dominated company where you really had to stand up to the guys, and you were respected when you do that. And so I say to my listeners, my ladies that are listening right now, that you have to speak with confidence and air about you, that you know what you know. And I found myself at times, Nora, where I would have to tap the decks and said, excuse me, I am not done yet. Can I have a minute? And some might call me the B word. Some might say, oh, I had a little tagline about me where they'll say, she's she's no nonsense. She's tough. But if I was a man, especially a white man, that would be a good attribute.
Right,
And
right.
so I would say
Hmm.
get comfortable with people telling you that you're tough, and that you're no nonsense, because it means that you won't let anybody run over you. And you'll get your voice, and you let your voice be heard. And I know, Nora, that it takes time, because someone said to me, she was a friend of my daughter's in her early 30s, and she said, well, what if I'm new and I'm nervous and nerves get a hold of me? Then go back to your desk and send an email and said, I did not get a chance to verbalize what I have to say. Here are my thoughts. And so you can start by, but don't ever leave a meeting without saying what you have to say. And sometimes you have to start out by just sending a note to everybody that in the meeting. Since I didn't get a chance to express my thoughts, here it is.
Right, right.
And I've done that many a time.
Right. I love what you said. And so it kind of ties into our next question. How important is for the women to walk in their confidence? And so that is, let's talk a little bit about that, because just like you said, that she's tough, or she's a no nonsense person. Like you said, those attributes, if it were a man, and especially a Caucasian man, it would be, oh, wow, that's awesome. But when it comes to us as women, and especially as Black women, we come across as being angry. We got an attitude. When it's none of those things, it's being able to know who you are. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the notion of an angry Black woman is so prevalent when it comes to us as Black women. And I really tell people these days, just brush it off and keep going, because, we're living in a time right now that if there was ever a time, Nora, when we have to let our voice be heard and not care about the stuff they used to describe us, I find that it's not just white men. I said 70% of white men, were in my industry, but the other 20% was white women. And they are sometimes even just as tricky. I'm going to use the word because I'm on a Christian show. I mean, tricky, where, if you open yourself up and you're firm with a white woman, they start to say they're afraid of you, or you're bullying them. That's a code word. Or they will even start, the whole notion of white tears. And, when a white woman when we cry, it's just like we're weak and we're emotional. When a white woman cries, it's called white tears. And that brings their white male running. And I don't want to turn into a race thing, but if you're anywhere, it really becomes tricky. So you as a person have to remember that you bring value. You have to really reiterate what you have to say. You have to know your subject. You have to be a subject matter expert. And so, Nora, I always say to people, don't go in the room if you don't do your homework.
Right.
Because that is going to make you look
ridiculous.
So get it together. As I always like to say to the young people, get it together. Because when you go in, they're already looking to poke holes into what you have to say. So you have to go, one, prepared, and prepared in several ways, because you don't have to know everything, because they don't. But you have to go in prepared enough and go in confident enough to say, you know what? I don't have the answer to that question, but let me get back to you.
Right.
So prepare, confident enough to say, no, I don't know that. Can you say more about that? And, be and question and push back, and forget about trying to, gone are the days, when we all work together and we're trying to get along. But I feel like people have to speak their truth. And, for me, because I could really get emotional when I'm speaking my truth, I literally put myself in a headspace where my voice goes down a couple of notch, because my natural instinct is to raise my voice, and then the angry Black woman come in. So now it goes down a couple of notch, and I'll say, can you say a bit more about what you just say about you people? When you say you people,
what do you mean? Right. Right. Okay, good. And so isn't so what you're saying, I hear you saying also too, is that it is important. You may not know everything, but you'll get back to them about it. But the key thing is that they have to know their stuff. They have
Right.
whatever
Absolutely.
you have to know your stuff. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because one thing I've always admired about you is that you knew your stuff, and on every level. And so that's why you come across so confident and sometimes intimidating, probably, which is what they probably think, to people, because when you're confident and you know your stuff, people get in, they say, quote unquote, they're intimidated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about not knowing who you knowing your stuff.
Yeah, even Nora, I know maybe a good majority of your listeners, go are Christians or women of faith, and if I take the Bible for instance, since this pandemic hit,
Mm.
I used to walk around my company, and my company was, when I left it, 150,000 employee globally, and everybody knew that I was a woman, a mighty woman of God, blessed and highly favored. My CEO we were going through a major merger, and he will walk past me in the hallway and say to me, Jackie, how are you doing today? And even on the days, Nora, when I was feeling really crappy and wasn't quite sure I was going to have a job, I would say blessed and highly favored.
Mhm.
And I remember just saying that because, you have to speak it into existence.
Mhm.
And so I say that to answer your question, is that anything we do, even in our spiritual walk, we have to know.
Mhm.
And so you can't go into any type of job and not know what you know, because then you're flying by the seat of your pants.
Mhm.
And then it's going to make you become unravel if you don't know.
Mhm.
Because you have to know something. So if you're saying to me, Jackie, speak to me a little bit about your background as an HR executive and a chief diversity officer. Tell me a little bit about how do you overlay that on what's going on today.
Right.
I would say to you, Nora, the racial inequity and the racism, the structural and systematic racism that is going on right now is damning.
Mhm.
And then when you might say to me, and say more about that. And I said, the gaslighting that is going on from some of our white counterpart is even more.
Mm.
And so you really have to know. And someone might say, Jackie, so what is gaslighting? And gaslighting is really telling me I didn't see the policeman kneeling on George Floyd's neck. And I didn't see the policeman shooting Jacob Blake 7 times. That's gaslighting. And so if I go into a conversation, even with the police force, and I'm talking about the microaggression, the gaslighting, the tone policing, I can't go in there if I don't know my stuff. I have to know it. And so for the viewer, be a subject matter expert. And one of the ways I do it, I listen to a lot of audibles. I, and you can do that, wherever you're at. If you go for a walk, read, inform yourself. There's so much way to gain knowledge, but you can't show up unprepared. I think I'll leave it at that. You cannot show up unprepared.
Right. So how do you as a Black woman, or how did you as a Black woman, and share with our viewers on how to, as Black women, deal with when you work in corporate America, male dominated industry, a lot of industries are, how do they deal with conflict? So again, you're not coming out as an angry Black woman, but you're coming out with a woman who knows your stuff, a woman who is highly educated, a woman who's totally confident. Talk to them a little bit about that, because a lot of times I think we allow our emotions to control the situations, and we confirm to them their thoughts all along without changing.
Right. Sometimes we play into the stereotype.
Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm.
And we can't allow it. And Nora, I know that your viewers might see my book, Lift as I Climb, An Immigrant Girl's Journey Through Corporate America. And Nora, it's my instructive biography that I wrote 2 years ago when I left corporate America, talking about my journey in corporate America. And there's a chapter in there that I spoke to, how I show up in different meetings and how do I deal with conflict. And I explained that I found out maybe halfway through my career in corporate America that, all my white counterpart and their direct report was making $90,000 more than me, not
Mm,
19, 90.
mm,
So talk about angry.
mhm.
And so I had to center myself. And a lot of times when I'm entering to a conflict, I let the Lord lead me. I never used to do that when I was younger. But the more seasoned I become, I don't like the word old,
Yeah,
seasoned.
season,
I
mature.
want to clothe and armor myself in God,
Yes,
And
amen.
and I was angry. And I think that if you're angry, you cannot, because Black women are just naturally fierce.
Mm,
And the minute we go in and we put our stuff on the table, and if people step to us with any crap, it could go sideways.
right.
So you have to really prepare yourself and decide never go into a conflict. Or if you enter into a conflict, I have two tips.
Mhm.
If I'm in a meeting and I see where excuse me, there's gonna be a conflict, like the guy would say, you guys, you people. Someone asked me the other day, Mary, are you people gonna get over the victim mentality?
Mm.
And so I had to, I was on like this with 200 white guys, and he wrote the question in the chat. Excuse me. So I had to like gulp when I read the question, and then I said, I'm going to be very honest. I'm a little stunned by this question, but I would be remiss not to answer it.
Mm,
And so someone just asked me, when are you people? So I'm taking it, Black people, is going to get over our victim mentality. And what I will say to you that asked me that question, and I lowered my voice and took a deep breath, when you stop killing us.
mm. Wow.
And
Wow.
I moved on. Now, I didn't know who asked it, but it was in the chat. If you are face to face with someone
Mhm.
and the conversation starts to get up, I like to tell people, you know what, Nora? This conversation is not going the way. Let's agree to disagree right now. Let's take it offline. And when we both calm down, let's come back to it.
Mm, that's a good.
Let's agree to disagree. If you're going, so that's the second piece. The
Mhm.
third piece is that you're going into a meeting, and it's gonna be tough.
Right.
So you go in prepared. You know exactly what you're gonna say. And I'll give you
Mhm.
a quick example. I had a new boss. I found out they were underpaying me significantly. I spoke to Windsor, my husband, about it. We strategized, and I said, I'm only gonna ask 3 questions. Because the minute I start talking about it, I start crying. So I'm like, no crying today.
Mhm.
Lord, no crying.
Mm.
So I went in and she said, Jackie, what can I do for you? I said, lots, but I just have 3 questions for you. 3 questions. Number 1, why am I not a vice president?
Mhm.
All of the people that I train are. Number 2,
Mm.
and she said, I don't know, but let me get back to you. Number 2, why am I being paid $90,000 less than my peers direct report?
Mm.
And number 3, and I'm trying to remember what I asked her for number 3. Number 3 was, what is it that I can do to what are you hearing about me that you can share with me? Something like that. And I just let it go. I didn't go, because as women of color, we could go on and on once
Yeah,
we
yeah,
get,
yeah.
why am I underpaid? Because I know Tom and Jackie, and I
Mhm.
start going, because
Yeah.
we're like that. We're
Right.
passionate.
Right.
I just calmly asked, and she was like,
Mhm.
Jackie, those are really good questions. Let me look at them and let me answer one. Here's what I'm hearing about you. I heard that you're great at your job. There's nothing we throw your way can't do. Sometimes we hear that, you'll go on a project, and by the time the project is over, everyone is dead. There's a lot of dead body, so to speak. And I said, say a little bit more about that. And they said, well, people said you can get angry, you lash out. And I said, do you have an example?
Mhm.
And, I didn't get defensive, because so
Mhm.
you ask for example and you probe. But my tip, Nora, would say, really go in preparation, 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 and be willing to step back and say, let's take that offline.
Right. That's good.
Take it offline.
Awesome. Awesome. So why are women, and oh my goodness, this is just so lining up because you just talked about why you were paid less, $90,000 less than the other people. So why are women afraid to ask for promotion when they know they deserve it?
It's just self-doubt. But let me just say to your viewer, I got my $90,000. And I did. I got it. Hey, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. He's so good. Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
Yes, he'll do it. And Nora, a study of showing that woman, and that's why what you're doing, what we're all doing, but what you're doing is so important, not just for us, but for our daughters and then our granddaughters and the women out there that have not had the privilege that you and I have had. Because sometimes when we use the word privilege, it seems like it goes with white people, but we have had some privilege and afforded some privilege by the grace of God that we have to remember to lift as we climb. That's why I wrote the book, because a lot of women out there don't have the self-confidence, they don't have the means, and we have, and this is all women, no matter what color, been told so often that, we're here to serve and we're not, good enough, that a lot of times I spend all of my life as a mother and continue to sow into my daughters and now my granddaughters about how fearfully and wonderfully made they are. Right. So women have been taught all of that, and that tape is still in their head. So there's a study out there that says, if you advertise for a job and a woman look at the job description and she's got 5 out of the 10, let's just say she has 8, she'll say she's not qualified. But a man now, I tell you, I love their ego. A man will have 2. And I'm not trying to be mean-spirited, guys, because I love you. They'll have 2 out of the 10, and they'll apply for the job, and they'll fake it until they make it. And I always tell people, and that study is all over if anyone want to look it up. We just doubt ourselves. And that's why it's so important for us to sow into each other and lift each other up. There is, when the Obamas was in the White House, the woman that worked for Michelle Obama, always, when they were in the room and they were around a table, they always reinforce each other so the voice could be heard. So I would say one thing and said, oh, let's paint the couch blue, or let's paint this wall red. And the guys will be talking over us. And you would say, Nora, yeah, Jackie just said, let's paint it red. And someone will reinforce it. Right. And what we have to do, we have to lift. We have to be behind each other, lifting each other up. Yes. And we can't have this one slice of the pie mentality. Because a lot of women buy into that one slice of the pie mentality, Nora. And all of us, that grew up together, Nora, you, me, Gloria, Sabrina, Kim. I mean, all of us are doing well because we didn't think there was only one slice of the pie. Right. And if there's anything I can tell people is that continue to lift each other up and have confidence in yourself, and just know that if you're willing to work hard, you will succeed. So go apply for the job, even if you only have 2 of the requirements.
Wow, that is so powerful that they had 2 of the qualifications and applied for the job. And women, no, and it has nothing to do with race. It could be black or white. They would walk away and have 8 qualifications for the job and walk away and say that they were not qualified. I'm like, are you kidding me? You got 8.
Yeah.
Only has 2.
Well, there's this old one of the definition that I talk about a lot when I do a webinar called Courageous Conversation, and I talk about different definitions, and there is a definition out there called imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is really your belief that you're not as qualified, even though there is clear evidence indicating that you're well skilled and well qualified. So it's your belief and fear that you're not quite qualified, even though there's evidence that you're skilled and qualified. And that it says that 70% of women and people of color suffer from imposter syndrome. And so I talk about a story of visiting the White House back in the days, not now. I was asked to speak at the White House. And just before I hit the stage, I turned to my CEO and said, maybe you should do it because I don't know if I'm qualified. And he said, Jackie, you're getting a bit of imposter syndrome right now. So imposter syndrome is what a lot of us as women suffer from. And I would ask your audience to Google imposter syndrome and sort of kind of snap out of it. And the way to snap out of it is by knowing your subject really well.
Wow, that is so awesome. Well, Jackie, I want to thank you for being our guest on Real Conversations with Nora. Are there any last minute comments that you would like to share with our audience?
You know, I constantly say this, and I'll wrap up with it. You know, women, you know, we're always vocal. We always want to make sure that our voice is heard. But I will leave you with this piece, and I got this from my sister. Let your audio match your video. So don't talk a lot and do nothing. Let your audio match your video. So while you're talking, you're lifting. While you're talking, you're sewing. While you're talking, you're writing your next book. So let your audio match your video. Nora, it's such a pleasure. I'm so grateful and honored that you had me on your show today.
Yeah. Tell us about, before you leave, tell us how they can tell us, hold your book up again. Let us see your book. We'd like to see your book. Oh, I love it. Lift as you climb. And then can you tell the audience where they can find it?
You know, they can find it on my website, which I prefer if they go there because, you know, Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's GlenDiversitySolutions.com. So it's Glenn, GLENN, diversity.com. Or you can find it on Amazon, but you can also find it on my website, glendiversity.com. Thank you. I would appreciate it. It's Lift as I Climb, an immigrant girl's journey through corporate America.
Good. Well, we are going to be doing later in the year, we're going to be doing a topic on Black authors. So we're excited that you're an author, and we look forward to having you back. Once again, I want to thank you, Jackie, for your insight on today's topic. And to my Real Conversation with Nora audience, please follow us on social media on Instagram at BWOTMFG and on Facebook at Business Women on the Move for God. Visit our website at BWOTMFG.com and sign up for our weekly inspirational quotes. I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where? On Real Conversations with Nora. Have a blessed week. May God bless you this week. See you later.